Welcome to Healing Process from Louisville, Kentucky, Roots 101 African American Museum. Today, our second episode, we have locally Dr. Brandon McCormick. How you doing, Brandon?
I'm doing well. How you doing?
I'm blessed. And then we have Reverend Eric Johnson. How you doing, Red?
I'm tremendous. Thank you for that.
Tremendous.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
All right, cool. And you'll find out that me and Reverend Johnson will play around the whole day. But we're here for a serious topic. But even in a serious topic, it has to have humor so the anger can go away. Right here in Louisville, Kentucky, we know that we've been in the middle of a pressure cooker with the death of Breonna Taylor and also Mr. McAtee. And the reason we're doing this show tonight is that too many times men don't have voices today, and especially black men. And what I want to do is bring black men to the table, discuss the healing process here in Louisville, but also the healing process for black people all over America. So the first question I would like to ask, or if it's a question, would be, what do you guys do for a living? Starting with you, Brandon.
I'll start with me. I was going to defer to the pastor.
Okay.
No, but I'll take it up. I'm Brandon McCormick. I'm a professor at University of Louisville in the Department of Pan-African Studies and Comparative Humanities, where I teach African American religion across those two departments.
Great. And Eric?
What's my turn? Okay, I was listening to him. I was thinking about something. I'm Dr. Eric Johnson. I pastor the Greater Galilee Church here in Louisville. I'm also an author and scholar. I teach at Anderson University as well as Campbellsville University. My areas of specialty are rhetoric, biblical theology, and African American history.
Great. You know, at the museum, we always say it's a healing place. Yeah. And the reason I call it a healing place or healing space is that when we talk about African American history and we talk about the African American journey in America, you know, there's some healing to go for us to be where we need to be. And the only way we can do that historically is to tell our story and then tear the wound back and treat the scab, or take the scab back and treat the wound. And the whole purpose of this is that we can give brothers some idea of what we can talk about. It's a safe place, but it's a safe place that it's things that we can share with each other.
Right.
So this is what the purpose is. It was a great thing that happened today. Well, I think it was great that I never expected, and it's part of healing too, is when the NBA decided not to play anymore. We know historically sports has always been an avenue for black people in black America. We had Jackie Robinson step to the plate. So many Muhammad Ali, so many Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, there's Lou Alcindor then. So many athletes came to the table. John Carlos during the '68 Olympics. Yes, so athletes have always been the forefront in our community as not agitators but progressive leaders in our community, right? Yeah. And when the NBA decided not to play, I think that's major from a healing standpoint, but it's major that little kids can look in the mirror and go, okay, we can make decisions about our life, right? So tell me, what did you get out of what happened today with the NBA? Eric?
A couple of things. I think I'm appreciative. I'm always grateful and appreciative of consciousness because those guys make millions of dollars. And they are in some sense, in their own minds, kind of excluded from what the brothers on the street is dealing with. And for them to refuse to allow that bridge back to community and back to existential pain to be broken is a wonderful thing. Kyrie said, "I'm not going." A couple guys over there said, "Man, we're not even going." And I appreciate that, even though he missed it about the world being flat. He got that right. You know what I'm saying? Right. He had enough consciousness to say that our focus and our attention needs to be on this concern. And the guys who were there, I don't know if you saw last night, man, it was, I tweeted about this, a beautiful thing with Coach, the Clippers coach, man, what's his name?
Doc Rivers.
Oh my gosh, man. And then he came back again this morning, from what I understand.
Put it back out.
Yeah, and basically what he's articulating is that we have a conscience, even though we're over here and we make this money and we're supposed to be this, we still are human beings and we're still African American men. Thereby we have a consciousness and a bridge to what's going on. We're still connected. And I think one of the things that happens with black men, we try to get the trophy white wife, we try to get the trophy place because we didn't learn how to deal with those factors and things that forced us to get to the NBA or the NFL. So when we get there, it's kind of an escapism. I made it out. Not necessarily, because you can move trash to a new location, but it's still trash.
Right.
So that's what I appreciate about today, that they had a consciousness and an awareness and a kind of sociological, they had a pulse that did help them do the right thing. Now, the question is for me, what you and I talked about last week, what policy is going to come out of this? I boycott a couple games, but what am I going to say to the owner of the Dallas Mavericks? Like, I've been thinking personally, I'm a Cowboy fan, so I'm going to start tweeting about Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones. Look, man, you ain't said nothing. You've been quiet. You on your yacht. You doing your thing. Look, bro. So, because I personally feel the NFL is nothing more. For all this stuff, man, nothing more than upgraded, elevated slavery. You know what I'm saying? But what is it that these guys are going to do? You know what I'm saying? So when LeBron says he ain't playing tonight, okay, but what's the owner of the Lakers going to do? You know what I'm saying? And like the guy said on TV, there's so many, man, I didn't think about it, so many NBA owners and other team owners that have not said a word. They're just kind of hiding behind that these guys are going to do. So it needs to be not just the consciousness of the player, but the whole organization.
Makes sense.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Brian?
The pastor has laid it out. I mean,
you know you're going to do that, right?
Left no stone unturned.
That's right.
But right. I mean, I think the idea of the consciousness that you want to see from our athletes, because it's particularly because I work in the university context, and so often that they're shielded away from, right, the social political issue, and actually coached not to say anything, right, to keep their mouths closed, right, to protect their interests against their progressions towards the NBA and towards these professional careers. And so oftentimes they have remained silent. Unfortunately, we've seen that over the years, but now you're seeing, I think the college football players in Missouri were a particular exception to that in the collegiate game.
And Liberty, too.
Right. And Liberty, ironically enough, Liberty got a whole lot of that.
That's a whole issue, right? We'll talk about that.
Liberty's got a whole, hornet's nest thing going on. But with the college athletes, but in the NBA, we've seen particularly have taken the lead on this. And this, the kind of right of refusal to say that I can refuse, right, to go along and continue, because the expectation is that we'll kill you, that we'll murder, we'll kill you, we'll shoot you in front of your children. But we expect black men to continue to suit up and play for our entertainment, right? And even as black men are grieved. So the right to refuse, one, I refuse to entertain you through my oppression.
That's good.
And then two, I'm taking the right to refuse to gain space for myself for self-care. Because, I mean, the Bucks might understand. The first to say we're not going to play because it's happening in their backyard. We're close to this.
Right.
We're close to the pain and some of the communities and the people, so we're not going to play. And then other players and teams follow suit. But because they too are grieving. But as strong black athletes, right, who are supposed to be in beast mode all the time, are supposed to be fierce, who are supposed to, don't be out here like no little, whatever, right? But they just stop and say, we hurting too. We got to take some time and mourn and or cry and or grieve too to heal ourselves. So it's space not just to refuse entertainment, but to take space to heal ourselves too. And I think that's a model for black men that we can appreciate and lean into.
Yeah, and I think what makes it such a great model, these are the men that we figure are the bigger, stronger, and faster of us all.
Supposedly.
Yeah, supposedly, right.
Yeah.
But for them to be at that level or looked at that level, to go from physical to mental, is awesome in itself, because now, like you said, they're talking. They're sharing their pain. They're talking, like LeBron mentioned, about communities and death and how they touched him, because so many of us had to go through that instead of isolating ourselves away from that. So I just thought that was just something just unbelievable that I didn't think, again, I would see in my lifetime, right? Yeah. But Doc, you missed well, it's both of you, Doc, but that Doc.
No, you just said it earlier.
I meant the Doc.
You said Reverend.
Right.
You're going to call this brother Doctor, but you can call me.
Okay, little Doc, big Doc. How's that?
I'm hurting now. I need some self-care.
Come on, man. That's work too.
All right, I'm going to look, Doc.
I'm teasing. I love it. It don't matter.
And this is what brothers do.
Yeah. It don't
that's what
matter.
people have to, we don't fight. We talk things out and have fun, and that's something young people need to understand. Dozens is part of our livelihoods, and it's all good. But look, Doc, go back to you. Okay. Now, when we talk about athletes and athletes showing emotions when they lose, that's a whole different animal.
Right.
But when we talk about everyday young men that's out there in the street, and especially if they're playing that street game, and the casualties of war that we see every day of young people killing each other, which is another thing we have to talk about and address. Black Lives Matter is one thing,
Right.
but black on black crime is another.
Right.
Whether it's entitled, wrong, or whatever, but self-destruction is real, right? So if we talk about how the NBA players are stepping to the plate, what as black men do we say to young brothers out there that your life is worthy too?
Yeah.
What do we do?
A couple things. First, let me thank you for providing us this platform as young brothers to come and share. And I want to say, personally, I don't have the matrix of all the answers. I'm thinking through it. I'm processing it. I'm writing at night, thinking about it, journaling, and talking to other colleagues. And so I don't have a fix all, but I want to thank you for first providing us African American men. I don't prefer black African American men or Negro men to have a platform whereby we can discuss this intellectually and articulate some things that some might bless somebody else. I want to piggyback on Brandon. He said something so powerful, and I want to hit that again. He said that because they were connected to their socio-political reality, I'm not going to allow myself to be your entertainment in the midst of my oppression. And then you picked up about the tears and them crying and stuff like that. I didn't have a model of a man who had self-care. I didn't have a model of that. My model, I had besides preachers, my model of a man was, I hate to say womanizer because that wasn't it, but a slick Denzel is what I call it, slick Denzel. Then on the other side, I had the macho Randy Savage kind of dude that, and in football practice when we played for college and we played for high school, I grew up in Texas, man, what none of that, man. You were called everything on the anatomy if they saw you cry, if they saw you hurt. Your daddy died, you better get that up, mess that up. And so now, hopefully what will happen is we have a new paradigm of modeling what holistic manhood is about. Because so much anger and rage and deterioration and destruction is in me because I pushed it down and I pushed it down, and this happened, I pushed it down. My wife did this, I pushed it down. My dog got, I pushed it down. I got laid off. He got the and I put, and so when I erupt, people like, man, why would Johnson go off like that? 52 years, man, of not having a venue or even thinking in my own mind that it's appropriate for me to come to Brandon and say, man, I need to talk to you, man. Shit. I need somebody just forget what I'm gonna say to you and how I'm gonna say it. Let me vent. Let me get this out of me. And then once I get out of me, will you be willing to walk with me through the valley of process and help me process this, man? Why do I feel this way? And so I think that if we take full opportunity to talk and to engage these young brothers, man, and say, man, hey, did you see that by doing this, it implied this? By LeBron or doing this, or really Doc Rivers last night, by Doc Rivers tearing up, what did that say to my young 17-year-old son? So when he and I talked about it, so man, so I told you it's okay, man, to be who you really are, authentically and holistically. If that's a part of your journey. I never forget this. Let me just tell you an example. My son is an introvert. My baby son is an introvert. He's like me. So they're in this championship game, Brandon, and man, it's close. They score, we score, they score. So my kid had the ball. They're going out. I just know this is gonna be one of my stories. It's gonna be great. And what I'm saying, one of my I'm reliving my life, man. They driving down the field. My son's quarterback. He driving down the field, little Michael Vick stuff. And man, he threw the ball, and the little kid dropped the ball. Okay, now I could have screamed, but so I'm a Christian, so I'm like, okay, well, it happens. So I walk over the fence, man. My son ain't never cried. He ain't never showed no kind of emotion. He ain't that. He just does what he do. So I walk off the field, man. Walk over there and just kind of hug, high five, man. Good game. My son walks over to me. Watch this. Puts his head in my shoulders, man, and starts crying. When he does that, his little Caucasian friend walks over to the other side of me, puts his arm around me. His daddy's right there, but he puts his arm around me and starts crying. And let me know that because I made my son felt that I was a safe place. The vibe went out that even though my daddy's over there, Winton's daddy understands, and that's where I'm going. Most black men, watch this back door. Most black men don't have a safe place. They're married, but it's not a safe place. They got a baby daddy, baby mama, all that. Not a safe place. They got best friends, boys we shoot ball with, play pool with, but they are not safe places. And until we raise the elevation of our mentality, and each man becomes not only a man to another man, but says, you know what, man, I'm a safe place. I'm not sexuality. I'm not that. Hey, man, it's a safe place because you know what, bro? I had an older man help me. Mm-hmm. That's the power of what could happen.
Exactly.
If we elevate to that level. Mm-hmm. It's not just physical, it's not just social, not just political. There's an emotional, if you will, and psychological piece to that. You know, Martin Luther King says that the reason we can't go forward is because we have to first be willing to uneducate ourselves of the things we think we know. That's beautiful. And so a lot of brothers grew up like me. They grew up, hey man, this is what you are, this is what a man, you handle your house, you rule your, hey man, now 50, I'm like, and it just blew my mind. It took me a long time, Brandon, maybe you can speak to this, a long time for me to process. This nigga ain't never, this 13, 14, 15 years, he ain't never. And so I said, man, what's up with that? He said, man, Dad, I ain't never hurt like that before. Mm-hmm. I just felt like you would understand. Mm-hmm. Nothing else said.
Yeah. It's enough. Enough.
Yes, yeah. One of the things I was thinking about was really the flip side of what I just said. Mm-hmm. On the one hand, I said that those players decided not to play because it was a moment for them to take for self-care and healing. On the other side of that, though, a couple of years ago, I teach a class on religion and hip-hop culture. And so I signed a book called Black Gods of the Asphalt, Religion, Hip-Hop, and Street Basketball, written by an author named Dr. Onaji Woodbine. And Onaji was talking about, because he grew up in Boston, and he went to, I think he played ball for Yale, quit the team because of the racism on the team and so on and so forth, and wanted to become a professor of African American religion. So he wrote this book about how for so many young black men who don't have a safe space, who don't have a place that they can go and to vent, that the street basketball court becomes the healing space in the game, because oftentimes we haven't been taught to articulate our emotions that we play out our frustrations and our pain and our grieving process on the court. As we talked about this, how in Boston they created this series of, not unlike the Dirt Bowl here, right? These series of memorial games in Boston that were all about, remembering the people who had been lost to gun violence. And so all these young men would come up and they would know that the court was a place where they could bring all that pain, all that grief, all that anger. They would have like healing circles in the middle of during halftime. Yeah. They would have older brothers who would come alongside them. But they would talk about, and they would interview a lot of these kids that were playing. They were talking about, I'm playing for, Jason that was shot last year, and when I'm playing, when I get that crossover, it wasn't even me, it was him in me, or I'm playing for my granny. I lost my granny last year, and my granny taught me this, and this, and so when I hit that shot, I could feel my granny telling me, but he was talking about how that space of the blacktop in the court in the middle of the hood became a sacred space for them, where they could address healing, address issues of spirituality, and so on and so forth, where they were otherwise estranged from the church or from the home or from other older men and so on and so forth. But in that fellowship with each other, they found that it's a really powerful book. I encourage young brothers to pick it up. Interesting enough, Donald Mitchell was in that class. Okay. Mango Mathiang was in that class. So we had some rich conversations. Right. And those two brothers were exceptions. I said, college athletes, but they had a lot to say in that class. I really appreciated them. So shout out to Jonathan Mitchell blowing up right now. Come straight out of Pan-African Studies. I caught that boy. Everything you know.
You know what? I want you do, baby. Yeah, tell me to send a check. It's like the other preachers. It's sending a check.
Don't forget about the boy.
Don't forget about it. But what you said and what Rev said is that when you talk about sports, especially with black boys, sports is such a gathering place for us. And I always talk about safe space. That's what I talk about when I do my men's ministry, a safe place for us to come to. But when you were talking, and both of you were talking, what hit me is that the one reason I even started this museum was when I was younger, you had to find images out there that think something was better than what you saw. especially on TV, all you see is gun smoke and no black people on it. But when High Spy came out with Bill Cosby, so you had to find not just images but mentors.
Right.
And so many in our neighborhood, because like most of us start up in the hood, were coaches. That became my role model was Willie Carter in Louisville. Fred Stoner was out his boxing coach. And when I was up in Smoketown, George Unseld was Wes Unseld's brother. So many, Coach Moore. I mean, I can go on and on. But I found my manhood through those brothers. And the cool thing about sports is emotional.
Yeah.
And because sports is emotional, you find yourself finding emotions when you step off that field. Because I'm a crying man. JC will tell you, my wife will tell you, I'm a strong brother, but I cry in a minute. But I don't find crying a weakness. I just find it a safe space for me. When I feel what I feel, I can release it out. And so I ain't saying I love to cry, but I'm okay to cry. I'm okay to cry. And then when you talk about connections, and I've used this metaphor so many times, but I like it, so I keep using it. And Reverend, you can steal it when I get through with it, because I know you will. So, so many times we're teaching young men how to tie ties and not how to make ties. When I say make ties with each other, relationships with each other. Those things we just don't do. We think bringing them into a mentoring group and just teach them how to do something. But we're not teaching them how to navigate with each other and trust each other. Maybe in fraternities they do. I know you're a fraternity brother. I never did that life. But
you are too. Yeah. Wrong one.
Oh, sorry, you're Alpha, right?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
You got one more try
You're not Alpha.
to throw shade on me. I'm walking out of here.
I did.
I'm Alpha.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. He does it on purpose, y'all.
Yeah, but
he does it on purpose.
But and there's some brotherhood to that. Now, it may not ever been any black Greeks, but there's brotherhoods in what you do, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So and I've always watched that and admired that. But just to kind of flip the switch when we talk about men, what I notice, especially with the movement nowadays, and I think I might have mentioned to Brandon before, and I'm married to a strong woman. My grandmother was a strong grandmother. I came from I came from a family of strong women. So women don't intimidate me being strong. They attract me being strong, right? But this is the true things that we're dealing with in this generation. When I was in management working, that's when men were getting promoted, black men. We had our little 10 years of affirmative action and we're getting promoted, and then all of a sudden, boom, right? Now the white woman has taken our place or whatever, but there's been a combination taking black men's place at work. Now, people say they ain't taking your place, but the opportunity is not there like they used to be. I was around during that era when it was. My question to young brothers now, that the diagram or the paradigm has shifted, is how is that going home knowing that your wife now is the manager, right? And she's making more money than you, and she's, how do you deal with that nowadays, especially as a young brother? And I know your wife is a strong sister out there. Is there a place that's a different place for home now? Is it a different time than when I came up, or what? No, let's go with you on that.
Look, she's watching right now on the live.
Oh, I know. That's why I teed it up.
No, man, I think it's a beautiful thing, though. I mean, to your point, sisters gonna be strong, and they're gonna do what they do, right? And it's a beautiful thing to watch. Now you gotta be prepared for that, right? But I think when you all are both operating out of your strength and your power, I mean, it's a kind of mutuality that actually. You benefit one another, and you build each other up. And so I'm fascinated to see how she's moving out here. In fact, there was like when we first got married, and I was going to Vanderbilt and getting a PhD and all this kind of thing. I was Dr. So and so. Like there was a lot of attention on me, and I was in the spotlight, and so on and so forth. But in the last 5 years, not to say, certainly she was already doing her thing then. But in the last 5 years, it's like, nah, she's catapulted, and she's out. And so I watch it like, she's killing it, and it's a beautiful thing to watch. Now, if you were insecure, then you become, oh man, she getting more shine than me, making more money or whatever. But for me, it's not a competition. It's about how do we come alongside each other and support one another to do good work together in the community for the sake of the folks.
It's a true partnership,
Yeah.
like marriage should be.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Red.
I concur, man. I just want to say, if my wife is shining and banking, thank you, Jesus. I mean, from my perspective, man, hey, man, I don't want to be held down by losing, man. And that's just real talk, man. I want somebody who's a drag, who's not walking in their gift, who's not walking in their purpose, who's not walking in a sense, in an affirmation, an aspiration to try to fulfill their potential. Who you know what I'm saying? Who wants that, man? So I encourage every day. I encourage my wife. Hey, man, go be. Even my church. I said, man, God never made a failure. God never has been a failure. So you have every right and reason now to go be great.
Right.
That's what I tell them. Go be great. And so if she brings home more than me, thank you, Jesus. That means I get a new pair of shoes. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I mean, for real. But Doc is right, man. It's really an issue of whether or not one is insecure and whether or not one has a sure identity. Two different things. You know what I'm saying? So if I'm secure in who she is and what she is to me and what she is for me and what she is with me, there's no issue.
Right.
But if I'm insecure in terms of what we have and who she is and what we're doing and what we're about, then it doesn't have to be just promotion or money. It can be anything. She stayed at the mall too long. Where you with? What you doing? So that's the key. So it's have to be a sure identity and security about not only who that person is, but what y'all have together.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I think it goes beyond intimate relationship too, like the interpersonal, intimate relationship. It's just about brothers seeing and supporting sisters in, leading, right? And being comfortable with that.
Right.
Because we've often had this idea that because I'm the man, I'm supposed to lead, I'm supposed to be in charge, I'm supposed to be running things, so on and so forth. And so that, this idea that if women start becoming promoted and or not just, we let them lead, but they take charge and do it themselves. That somehow, they usurp our authority or something like that. There's all kind of biblical, literalism. We got to work through that. But I mean, but we got to be in a position where we're like, I support you. I support your leadership. Yes, and go ahead and be out front. And we can be in partnership together.
Right. And I asked that question because as we go through watching like Until Freedom, and you see so many women in position pushing the march. And I always say women have always been involved in the struggle, whether in front or in back. Right. And many of their decisions were their decisions that they told in the kitchen or whatever part of the house, but the husband went back and said, well, he didn't say she said it, but that's where the advice came from, right?
Yeah. Right.
My thing when I hear young people, this whole dynamic that we're going through since Breonna Taylor and leadership on a national level, even on politics, right? But as a man, and we're talking about eyes through a man, right? And you've seen women take those positions, and like you said, rightfully so, taking positions, not waiting for the mantle to be passed. They're stepping up and doing their thing, right? And you see all these different dynamics of people saying this shouldn't be, that shouldn't be. But we know as men, especially as mature men, that is the process we're dealing with. Those are the leaders out front.
Right.
Why do you think so many men are having an issue with that? And not so many, but why so many young men seem to have an issue with that?
Let me just say, I think I can hit that, then Doc can take it on home. Truthfully, in our history, there's never not been a time where the sister wasn't in front.
Exactly.
But in front didn't always mean standing out front. There's never been a time. I was thinking about Dr. King. He got jammed up in one of his speeches, man, down south. And I can't remember the lady he always took with him, Precious Lord lady.
Right, Precious.
Man, I can't remember her name. Mahae Jackson. Yeah, Mahae was over in the corner. He was dying. They said he was dying. And he was dying a terrible death. And she said, Martin, tell him about the dream. Right. So he didn't hear it first time, so he kept dying. So third, she said, Martin. Then she finally got in front and said, tell him about the dream. He said, I have a dream.
You talking about when he made the speech?
Yeah, that's when he shifted.
Right.
She was the leader. She knew she could feel the pulse of the crowd. He's out here talking about, Tillich and Reinhard Bard and all that. He said, man, tell him about the dream. And he was smart enough and wise enough to say, you know what? Yeah, I'm gonna follow that advice. So in all these situations that we can talk through historically, man, there's never not been a season, a time, an issue or an experience that sisters have not been in the front.
Correct.
And the problem with young brothers is they're ignorant of the historical piece. They just coming in, Johnny come lately, my last 20 years, I've been here 20 years, 25 years. Okay, I've been here 30 years, whatever. They haven't surveyed the land. You understand, man? She been a queen, and she knew what would work best for her man and her family. So that sometimes meant I don't have no problem being out the light, and you know what I'm saying, as long as you willing to take my, you know what I'm saying, take my advice or whatever. Sometimes she's had to step up. You know what I'm saying? The sister that ran for president, Shirley Chisholm. 1971. She stepped up and said, man, you know, all this is bunk, man. So there's never been a time where sisters, and I guess guys, because you cannot be any more saved than you are educated.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? You can't be any more saved than you are intelligent. And so that's kind of the problem we're having now is we're going to have to teach people, you know what I'm saying, and re-socialize and really begin to say, okay, man, here's all this history that you seem not to know.
Yeah.
And I think that
before you would say that there's never not been a time, right? So in looking back historically, you know that people have all kind of issues with the movie, right? There's the scene in Harriet,
Right.
where you know they get ready to cross the river, you know, and take the track, and you know the men and women say, "No, we can't go that way. I ain't following. I'm about to go this other way."
Right.
And she go out through the water, you know, and they're like, "I ain't following her." And she get out there and she cross. She knows the way. She already been, you know, they should have been following her in the first place. And she makes it across, and then you want to come back on the back end and say, "She said, when men say listen." My name ain't mentioned no more. That's the girl you knew. My name is Harry Tubman. I'm in charge here. We do what I say.
Right.
Listen.
Right.
Harry got it straight, right? Harry got it straight. Every time with Sojourner Truth had to get Frederick Douglass straight, right? I mean, so our sisters have been doing this for a long time. And part of it is even in, you know, unfortunately, even in black studies, even in African American studies, we teach a male-centric
perspective,
curriculum and canon. So when we talk about leadership, we've only lifted up the charismatic black male figure as leader, and we haven't paid attention to all the ways that black women were leading both out front and from the margins and, you know, in all these other places, right? And so we just have not done a good job, even as educators, in lifting up black women's narratives the way that we should.
And that's always been something I've been talking about, is that women have always been there, you know, and the grandmas and the big mamas have always been supportive in the movement. But the coolest thing that I'll go ahead.
Let me say this too, more provocative.
Okay.
I think part of it too is that, and this has been happening since Harriet, since Sojourner. But I think young black women leaders now are much more willing to call out black men's shortcoming and or contribution to the oppression that we're experiencing, right? In a way that we become, you know, sensitive and offended, right? So that it's one thing for them to be out front, just leading on conversations about race. And when they become intersectional and they talk about, but you are also sexist and patriarchal and are contributing to the oppression in the community. Now, it's not that we was okay with you being out front, but now you're calling us out, right? And so that becomes a problem. So whenever I teach, you know, again in the intro to Pan-African Studies, we go through this whole thing about how black people are calling white people to account, and you know, to think about their whiteness and so on and so forth. The brother sitting in the back of the room like, and I said, but wait a minute, keep that same energy, right? Because when we start talking about black feminist criticism, and the criticism comes the other way, that comes towards us. Now we have to be as uncomfortable as we wanted white people to be, right? When we were calling out racism, right? So and then when you add on top of that, there's not just black straight women leading, but it's black queer women leading, right? And so that the LGBTQ critique comes in, and our heterosexism, and all these other kind of things, where as black men we feel attacked, right? You know what I'm saying? Now we got to sit with those critiques in a different kind of way,
right? Which is so true. But we talk from historical, even the homosexual community, which was called in the 60s, were involved in the civil rights movement. So even as a community, we haven't even gave weight to all the people that came to the table. Right?
My concern, Brandon, though, my concern is, I concur with everything you said, but my concern is not the critique. Sometimes it's the mode and model Big Mama said there's a right way to do everything. There's a right time and way. And I think sometimes guys are turned off or turned away or turned whatever. I can take you critiquing me, but you're not going to step to me like you're a man. You're not going to step to me in a way that's disrespectful. And that means how I perceive you being disrespectful, not you saying. And I think that's some of the weight that's at the bottom of the well, man. Guys, I talk to you, man. And we got, hey man, I'll take a critique or whatever, man. I know I'm wrong. I'll say I'm wrong. But
so you're saying it's a code of conduct, the way women need to come to men?
I'm saying that Jesus said, no.
We got to go back on Jesus.
I know nothing but Jesus.
Because you threw an Archie Bunker thing out there, so go on.
No, that's not Archie Bunker. That's fact. That's George Jefferson. That's everybody I know.
Yeah, right.
And the truth of the matter is, I have to come. If I want respect, I must first what? Show respect. If I want a friend, I must first be a friend. If I want understanding, I must first give understanding.
Right.
I'm not gonna come to you with a Uzi, come to Brandon with a Uzi, man. I want to hear him out. I want a dialogue, and I may not agree. He may not agree with me, but like he said earlier, man, we have the right to articulate our positions and talk about, man. Let's get this. Keep the same energy, is what he said. But when you come to me like, hey, man, I'm tired of that. You ain't this. Oh, wait a minute now. You finna take me back to South Dallas. Whoever you are, black, white, gay, whatever. We finna go, because you can't approach me like that. And that's what I'm saying. If we're gonna talk about personhood, then when you talk about personhood and leadership, it's still personhood. Even though my critique of you is, hey, I still need to respect the fact that you're a person. There's dignity there. There's sacredness. So it's not Archie Bunker. I beg to differ with that differently. It's not Archie. It's about calling a spade, but using the way you don't use a cat call for a dog.
Right. Well, let me ask you a question. Do you find when you talk about the movement that we see now, right?
Right.
And the code of conduct that's used now. When I say code of conduct, the words you hear in the street, different than what you heard in the 60s,
Right.
60s, 60s. You didn't hear so many dogmatic type of words, even though we got a president that cuss and call us son of a bitches.
Wow.
But when white Americans see us marching, calling son of a bitches and
Right.
up front,
Yeah.
it's a different dynamic shift on what's happening. So my question is that the way that we, like you said, code of conduct.
I didn't say that.
But what did you say?
You said
Oh,
that.
that's right. What did you say?
But
you understand where I'm going.
Because I'm kind of questioning. I'm not comfortable with that code of conduct. That sounds like I'm in some like school or something.
Okay.
I'm simply saying, let's use the word character.
Okay, character. That's a good one.
I think that if I'm marching, or if I'm protesting, or if whatever I'm doing, man.
Okay.
When I walked in there, I was respectful.
Right.
I didn't come here and take my shoes off and demand you do stuff. I respected your space.
Yeah, but what I'm asking you though, here's what I'm saying, is that what we see today in the marches today versus what we saw in the 60s, that's why I said code of conduct. We see something different.
I see
shifting.
different character expression.
And that's a good point.
Poor.
That's what I'm saying. What do you
Character
feel about
expressions.
That's the question I'm asking.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do
Yeah.
you feel as a man, I don't like, whether I'm black, white, green, I don't like the character that I see at some places.
No, not as a man. Listen to me. Listen,
Okay.
maybe I'm not being clear.
Okay.
And I apologize. As a person,
Period.
I am concerned about the character expressions that are being displayed in the name of freedom.
Okay.
They're not necessarily freeing people.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm asking you. Yes. Great.
That's my critique.
Okay,
If
good.
I had one, you know what I'm saying? I appreciate everything, man. I'm not a marcher, but I'll write, I'll preach, I'll whatever I got to do, I'll platform. But, I had a guy critique older, let me just say, I had a brother, I had to get with it, man, that was critiquing older pastors, man. I'm saying about them not doing. I said, all right, come here. So I intentionally went down and put him aside in front of everybody. I said, man, so you got one more time to let me hear you say something like that, man. Excuse me, I don't know if that came up, but let me hear you say something like that. And I said, I'm not from here. So the next time you see me, it's gonna be an issue. No, I did it for controversy. I said, man, that's not the way you handle us.
But
You see what I'm saying?
Right, I
That
got
was
you.
a character
Right.
expression.
okay, but I'm asking.
This is the whole set of issues, right?
Right, that's what I'm asking.
Because I think what you're framing is a different disposition among protesters, right? And so you've had so many in the civil rights generation say that this generation of protesters, right, is somehow socially deviant because they don't march in the kind of black respectable tradition
Correct,
of
right,
King. They're
correct.
not marching with suits and ties on, things like
Right,
that.
right.
They got pants hanging down, they're gangbanging, they got tattoos, they out here saying, F12, right?
Right.
Instead of we shall overcome, it's F12, right?
Right.
And so, for me, whereas there may be an aspect that might cringe at first, but I'm not in a position where I'm going to police somebody's expression of their rage, right? Because when Kimberly Jones came and stood outside, right, that store, right, when she was giving that account of the Monopoly thing, she was like, and y'all did this and this and this and this and this, and she ends it, you know what I'm saying? With I forget the store, with F.L. Walgreens, right? That was, for me, that was a powerful moral articulation that I can see white America saying, well, if you had just been nice, if you had just been dignified, we might have heard you, but we can't hear you that way. I'm like, well, no. You know what I mean? We've had enough rage, and we've choked it down, to your point, right? That this is where it's coming out now, right? And so, I'm not trying to tone check or police morality, of young protesters. Even if I may have a different set of sensibilities, that we want to have a conversation later.
And
so what I'm saying is, in the same way that I feel that way about how young black protesters are coming at the white power structure, I understand, even if I am, personally affronted by it, I understand when sisters, right, will come at brothers with that same energy because of patriarchal and sexist oppression, right? And so what I'm saying is, in the same way I'm saying to the brothers, right, that if you want white America, just you're gonna have to sit back and take some of that, right? Because of the history of the oppression. And brothers, sometimes I get it. It come at your manhood. I get it. You know what I'm saying? I get it. There'll be times where I'll be like, woo. but you know what I'm saying? When you understand of how sexism and patriarchy work, it's like, okay, you know what I'm saying? Okay, you know what I'm saying? Because some of that, it ain't even about you. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I'll be with my wife all the time, be like, why are you yelling? She's like, I'm not yelling. I'm purposely not hollering at you. You know what I'm saying? If I was hollering, you would know it. You know what I'm saying? And so we gotta sit back and be like, all right, you're right. I ain't hollering. I'm passionate. I'm passionate. And sometimes that passion, but because we people are passionate too.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And we feel misunderstood.
Right.
Like we supposed to be on the same team. Why you coming to me?
Why you
know what I'm saying? I'm hurting too. I'm oppressed too.
Right.
And so, and that whole matrix of emotion come out, and we get in these kind of gendered conflicts in ways that become unproductive.
Exactly.
And then because we're living in a cancel culture.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? As soon as that happens, so and so is sexist. The conversation and the possibility for relationality is shut down. We don't have that healing spaces to repair some of those relationships that got ruined in the heat of the moment.
Or the maturity, or the socialization skills. But let me say, just because you started this, let me just close that. I love what he said, because sometimes we take things personal that are not personal. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And if I know it's coming, okay, I can be that priest today. But if I don't know it's coming, then I can't be priest. I got to be some pull out some more tools in my tool bag, and that's all I'm saying. Is I concur with him, man. If you yelling and screaming at me, you know, because I'm not with that. No way. I'm with quiet time all the time. So you come and yell at man, then I immediately take that person like, man, that's an affront to me, because ain't nobody answering you yelling at. So now we got to handle this. Either we can. You've already escalated it, so now let me terminate this.
Right, but the question I'm asking.
So let me just interject real quick, because I know my wife's still watching. Which is not to say that she spent all the time hollering and screaming and yelling. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to mischaracterize it out here. Let me take the mask off so everybody see. I'm not mischaracterizing. Shots at the woman. She's a beautiful person, very articulate, has a very way.
Salvation.
She got
call the name.
All that kind of stuff. She comes in. She says,
say the name.
I'll sing it to you. So she. But I am saying there are moments.
Say the name. Say the name, bro. Say the name, doctor.
Let me put my mask back on.
Yeah, say a name.
So because otherwise I'm gonna have to stay in a museum tonight.
Say
your name.
But my wife the same way, so that's why I haven't said much about it. But here's the thing. I'm just playing Montel Williams.
See, if y'all was like more like me, see.
But
I'm just cool. I ain't brought nobody in. They ain't supposed to be in here. See, y'all done added wife, and my wife like that too. So y'all better stop that, man.
But here's the point I was trying to get to before you guys took it where you needed to take it, and you did need to take it. But this is the point I was trying to make. when we watch young protesters today and the conduct that we see, but then we have a president, this is the point I was making, calling black professional athletes son of a bitches and being applauded for it, right?
Yeah.
And we see young black people trying to get equality and injustice, but they want to critique their vocabulary, but call him one of the greatest leaders in the world. Those are issues to that. And I kind of wanted you to talk about that shift.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know, that looking in the mirror and seeing what they want to see.
I respect that. I hear that. I concur with you, but I just personally believe my conviction is there's higher ground than that.
Okay.
Maybe he can speak to it, he's younger than me, but for my generation, man, it was about higher ground. You know, we got called on the bus, man. We got and those same kind of people threw everything at us, man, and we just smiled, man. You know, we got off the bus a certain way.
Right.
We got on the bus a certain way, and I think to his point that we can't. You know, the purpose of conversation, see, is comprehension, not conflict.
Right.
And so today I had a church full of 20-somethings and below, man, 14. What am I hoop for? Why not just go down there and talk to them about what life is about? And that's what I did. And called up one of them, let me use you for my illustration. And because you have to exegete not only a text, you got to exegete the audience to which you're going to. Okay? And who they're connected to, who you think is not looking, but who's watching what you do. Because I may lose the battle over here by pressing high moral ground, but I don't know who's looking over here. And that might be my next ally, white, black, gay, whatever. That might be the ally, excuse me, the ally I need to get to this next point. But when we respond in kind or in like to foolishness, your mama said this, your mama said this, my mama said this. She said, never argue with a fool, because somebody who doesn't know you might pass by and presume that you're the fool. Never. And so again, for me, for my generation, for me, man, I've tried to live in such a way that the conviction of my character has been high ground. Now I'll tell you, I'm the chiefest. Ain't nobody. I ain't met no better sinner than me. Cause I'm a smart sinner. You know what I'm saying? And you know what I'm saying? And y'all confess y'all sin. I was right there, and you don't even know I was. You know what I'm saying? I done wiped it down. But and so I don't try to, like you said, man. I'm not trying to police anybody's expression. But I'm saying, is there could there possibly be, even with rage, a more effective and efficient way of communicating,
right,
such that they understand us as articulate. They understand us as intelligent. Because see, if you play into the stereotype, they say, "See, I told you."
Right, and that's basically what I'm asking you.
Right.
You know, that's
no, I get
down.
that. I get that. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, I get it, and I respect it. Right, and at the same time, you know, I feel like, you know, so many in the younger generation of activists have leveled the critique that, you know, our respectability will not save us. We tried it. It doesn't matter how articulate you come. I mean, this is Malcolm's critique. You know what I mean? Right. You're just gonna be Dr. Nichols, right? You know what I mean? Like, and you could be all those things. Now, so then the question is, I think where we could find common ground is it's not about a presentation of respectability for the dominant white gaze. So it's about what they think about us, right? It's about how we think about us, and or how, you know what I'm saying,
exactly
the kind of person that you want to be,
right?
Which might include some righteousness, and it might include some ratchetness too. You know what I'm saying? And how you negotiate that, you know, you know, it is one thing, but I'm less than comfortable saying that. And again, you know, both of us got whole PhDs,
right?
You know what I mean? And yet, how much does that really matter to people who are determined to see you as less than that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think another question I want to ask you, I see when I came up, because I'm talking to the elder, right, is that I saw certain, I see young people as fearless now. And when you're fearless, you're afraid of nothing. And that's what I see of the movement. I see people that are fearless, which is good, right? And on the other hand, it could be bad. I don't know which one, but I know the young brothers and sisters fear nothing. And because they fear nothing, they're not going to stop till they achieve what they need to achieve. And I think we're at a point in time in America where that has to happen. And I applaud them for being fearless. Because when I came up, people wasn't fearless. They might have been prayerful, but they wasn't fearless. This group of young people are fearless. And what does that mean when they're fearless?
Or maybe fearless in a different way.
Yes,
You know what I'm saying? I
yes.
certainly want to, because like that's one of the things, pulling my mask down now. Like when people have these T-shirts and like, I'm not my ancestors.
Mm-hmm.
You can get these hands. I'm like, well, some of our ancestors was about that too. Like, too,
Exactly.
right? I mean, let's not
don't
pretend.
don't trip
let's
out.
not, let's put some respect on our ancestors' name.
Right.
Some of them were carrying pistols and all,
Right.
these kinds of things like that.
And all of them didn't go to slavery.
AK, yeah,
That's right.
AK Umoja down at Georgia State wrote that book, We Will Shoot Back, about the armed resistance,
Right.
right, of the civil rights movement, the armed wing of the resistance, right? So all of our ancestors weren't all these peaceful, passive folks who weren't also fearless. But there's I think there's a different type of fearlessness. The one that caught me the most was the young Muslim sister in Minneapolis, right? And she's standing out there all of about 100 pounds. And she got a hijab on, she got her nose ring out there, and she is standing toe to toe beside those officers,
Exactly.
right?
Right,
And you
right.
see
I
the
see
video?
it. They better believe it.
And she's like, "Why they out here, sir?" And the thing is, she's so respectful
Yes, sir.
about it. She's between cussing and calling them sir.
Right.
Why they out here, sir? It's y'all, sir.
Right.
I lost 3 brothers to this. I lost 3 brothers. I'm not scared to die.
Right.
I'm not scared to die. Y'all gonna have to kill me. I mean, she's cussing,
Right.
sir.
Right.
So there's this really
Right.
interesting
Right.
interplay between her calling these officers and these white folks sir,
Right.
and her also cussing about the situation and the grief and the rage of having lost those brothers.
Right. And historically, I
You know
didn't
what
see
I mean?
that coming.
And sometimes we don't read that complexity on our young folks. You know what I'm saying? We see either one thing or the other, right? So there's some people, not you, but I'm saying there's some people who would hear that and be like, oh, look how she's cussing. And then miss the sir. And then some people would just see her as like, oh, she's overly deferential to these white people. Look how but she's standing her ground. She's fearless
Right.
in a way that was so compelling. I've watched that video over and over again. And there's something about that sister, at 100 pounds, just standing her ground in the face of that and said, I'm not scared to die because I ain't got nothing else to live for because killed everybody I love.
Right. And that's the respect that I
I'll
see.
burn this city down.
And that's what I mean by fearless.
Yeah.
It's just amazing how they're committed to what they're doing.
Yep.
Committed to it. Go ahead, Rick.
No, I concur, man. I concur. I concur. Nothing else. Y'all topped it off, man. If y'all see me look down, I'm on my phone because every time he mentions a book, Hip Hop and Concrete, I got that. We Will Shoot Back.
Black guys to the asphalt.
We
will shoot back.
I text stuff too, so. But when we over, so I just want everybody to know I'm writing these books down because I want to read what he's saying.
Yeah, I mean, a wealth of, I tell you what, guys, it's been everything that I wanted it to be and more, and it's more than and something we have to be intentional in doing.
Right.
So we got to figure out how we can make this happen more than once. You can't. I mean, we might have scratched the surface of what we're trying to do,
Right.
but you can't do it in one sitting in one day.
Right.
But I think we've brought some. You guys, I just been talking. You guys have brought the knowledge that I've asked for or needed, and I think you brought the knowledge that young people needed to hear. And the honesty. It's hearing one thing, but the honesty is the most important. And I don't think young people think we're honest anymore. And that because they don't think you're honest, they don't trust you. And I think we lost trust because they don't think you'll fight for them. Only fight for them if it's on the grounds that you want to fight. But if there's a brotherhood and a sisterhood, we got to be willing. Just like you said, the sacred, and you use the basketball analogy. We have to team up and walk up and do the things we have to do.
Yeah.
Right. But what I also say is that with the talent that's here and the talent that's out in the street, we have to become that boardroom mentality to take some young people in the back room and say, look, this is our approach to what we need to do. And this is how you navigate through certain things.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if we've been, as elders, at least in my case, that we have taken the time to help people navigate. Because some people have been down this road before. It's like a GPS system.
Yeah.
You can plug it up and know where to go. But when you got people out there going this way, it's so easy to teach them the different direction. You can drive the way you want to drive, right? You can speed, whatever. But just giving you the direction or helping you in the direction of what at potholes up the street, at potholes on the left. That's what we have to be intentional to do something like that. And it's about time to go.
But so,
Go ahead.
And so let me just say, as we're closing down, that's what's so important about this space that you created in this, healing process series. right? Because it is that place where people can come in. You talk about the young activists who are coming here. It's become a gathering place where people come off the streets because they trust you and they trust what this space is about, right? In ways that they may not trust these other institutions, right? But so when I was thinking about what you created with the healing process, during the summers, I like to go down. I didn't go this year because of COVID, but I go down to New Orleans. Every year in New Orleans, they have the Ma'afa commemoration, which is about the transatlantic slave trade, in which they have a ritual service there in Congo Square, which is about trying to recall and remember those tragedies so that they can heal, right? And so they have drumming and they have all of these. I mean, they have everything there. It's a beautiful ceremony. If you can go, you should go. It's always 4th of July weekend. And they leave Congo Square and they process through the streets of New Orleans down through the French Quarter. And at one point they come to St. Augustine Church, to the tomb of the unknown slave. And there was a sister, and they stopped. The Mardi Gras Indians do a chant there. But the sister sung one year, and she said, "I'm dedicating this song to all the young brothers." And she started singing the song, come inside the healing room, right? And she was singing to the young men. She was like, always remember your DNA is a spiral. It's coded for survival. Come inside the healing room. But then in that last verse, what got me when she said, if your demons there should chase you, there'll be strong arms to embrace you. Just remember that your ancestors got your back. I think that's what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
Come inside the healing room. And some people got some demons chasing them in here, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we got to have arms strong enough to embrace the people with their demons.
Right.
And then what you say about the ancestors, and to say that your ancestors got your back. Right. In the healing room.
That's right.
But she was intentionally saying, I'm creating a healing space for these young brothers that oftentimes they just don't have.
That's beautiful. I got to ask, we're about to leave out, but I always leave with one question. I always say becoming a better ancestor. So my question to you, Reverend Johnson, is when I say becoming a better ancestor, how would you answer that in your life?
I want to leave a legacy of hope, a legacy of courage, a legacy of achievement, a legacy of commitment. That there's no Goliath, that you'll ever come up against as a David that God won't help you, help you conquer. And I think I want to do one of love. I was thinking about what he said. That's all I wanted to ask, but I just want to piggyback on what he said. I just want us to understand that this is not an opportunistic time for people who are trying to make a name. And I just want my heart is heavy because I just don't. Again, I'm not policing, but man, you can sense that. Am I right?
Yeah, that's real. That's real.
And a lot of these faces I'm seeing, man. And one reason my boys ain't marching is because they know that dude ain't real. This is an opportunistic time, an opportunistic situation for him to be out. But you can't hold a job. But you behind in your responsibilities. But you're out here telling them. How about you protesting by being a responsible black man in what you deal with? That's what I'm saying. The other thing I want to say, man, that we've got to combat, which is so beautiful, man, what you said goes right in, is that we need to talk more about healing the hopelessness that blights our community. Okay? I don't think it's a fear thing. I really personally would say it's a hopelessness that I see. Because hopelessness breeds me killing somebody who looks like me because I hate who I am, or actually who I'm not.
Right.
Okay? And I think it's the hopelessness that we need to grapple with. Brandon could probably do that more in Pan-African and all that stuff, but theologically, man, when I don't know that he has my back, when he's not God to me, and you're not God to me, and they're not God to me, then why believe that God can for me?
Right.
That's what I'm hearing on the streets, man. A lot of this ain't about social politics, man. It's about lost people looking for somebody to love them and be God to them. Jesus came, the Bible says, he came in the flesh, incarnation. And they held him, and interesting enough, they wrapped their arms around him, the Bible says. And he tabernacled, put his tent up so they could see the Father. He said, when you've seen me, when you've heard me, when you've seen me do this, you've seen the Father. Where is that? Where is that paradigm in black life?
It's true. And then I'm going to tap on something you said about the movement. and I've said this in front of the Intel Freedom Group the other day, is that, you know, you're talking about leadership or people who may be out there for the wrong reasons. And what's happening is people trying to own the movement, and you can't own a movement. The movement, the movement comes with shared responsibility.
That's exactly right.
And that's what we have to show the young people. It's not about my stake is here, and I'm gonna get a grant here, I'm gonna get money from. It's about the movement, and nobody has ownership of the movement.
Yeah.
I don't care who you are. And I think we have to keep that in front of young people, that if it's about you, you're not part of the movement.
Yeah.
You know, and I said, you know, it's one thing to be present, and it's one thing about presence.
That's exactly
and if
right.
you're going to be present in the movement, you got to have presence.
Presence.
You got to care about what it's about. You got to
Yeah.
care about who's walking with you spiritually and physically. So they have to go in that presence if they're going to do what they're going to do correctly.
Exactly. And if we haven't learned anything, I think you guys picked this up. I just kind of smiled when you said it, but I'm gonna go on record and saying it. If I haven't learned anything in 2020, I've relearned this. Leadership is everything. I think we could have been through with COVID for real, but our president ignored it for his numbers to go up. Now we're dealing with something, I don't know, you know, next year before we have church or whatever. Leadership. Everything rises and falls. John Maxwell says on leadership. And you're so right. Leadership is not just a present. Leadership is committed presence.
Right.
See, I want him to know that if I don't make it, I'm gonna hold you accountable for you making it, and I'm gonna get your ass. I'm gonna get your hiney.
Brandon.
I expect. No, that was Dr. Johnson. I expect Brandon to go further than me.
Right.
I'm coming to the end of my time. I expect you to go out there, man, and what I couldn't do, what I set up, I expect you to do that. And if you don't, I'm gonna be an angry ancestor.
Right.
I'm gonna come get you.
Right.
You ain't getting to heaven. Go over there to Peter. You know what I'm saying? And that's what you're trying to lay out for us, man. But we can't ignore, bro. Tell the people, man, we cannot ignore or reduce or redress or re-edit, man, or come up with some radical hermeneutic that makes what happened in our past less eventful than right now.
That's right.
That's what's going on. Reductionism. Well, we're doing this is big. No. Like I said earlier, sacred space is people, man. That's why I said there's a funeral, man. How you gonna mistreat me, shoot me, and I look like you, unless you disregard sacred space and you don't know what people. So that's what I want to say, man. If it's about, I'm not quite sure, but it's about ancestry. Paul said that we have a great cloud of witnesses. What are they doing? They're cheering you on. They're telling you, man. My responsibility to Brandon as an older man is to challenge him and push him and to love him. You know what I'm saying? I gotta get him almost broken so he'll know he got strength enough to go to the next level. If I just cushy him and baby him, I don't critique him, I don't challenge him, he's gonna be soft. And somebody come along with that. So each of us has to find our role in that. But we gotta look back. Sankofa. I don't know if y'all know about that. Yeah. We gotta look back here, man, to know where we need to go. And I don't believe in the kind of the new radical reductionism that's in our people that says these guys wasn't nothing. I ain't like my ancestors. How disrespectful. Nigga, you don't even know who your ancestors are. You know what I'm saying? How disrespectful. You don't know what those people know. You don't know what they had to do. What Big Mama had to do so you could get here.
That's right.
How dare you? And then I ask you what she did. You don't even know. And you want to lead something for me? Man, you better go sit down and get a book, man.
Right.
And we need to stand up as our group and stop and say that, man. Critique me however you want to, but you're not going to disrespect what got me where I was, man.
Right.
That's the kind of ancestor I'm going to be.
Okay.
You see?
Brandon, what kind of ancestor?
I don't know what else there is to say.
Well, Doc gonna put it on.
I don't know what else there is to say.
He gonna write a book where everything.
Bring the organ.
Yeah, he wrote
Dang, you said you hot.
Oh, we need JC to hit a song over there. He gonna bring a Sunday sermon. Where
Nah,
he's at.
man. I'm just passionate about it.
It's all good.
Nothing else to say about it. I mean, I concur. You want to leave that kind of legacy where people can look and look at you as a model for something to follow and to go beyond, right?
Yeah.
I mean, one of the young people in here at Books and Breakfast was like, Dr. McCormick, man, give me a book list so I can know how to get on your level. Because I think I want to be a professor. So I was like, look, man, at 18, you so far beyond where I was at 18. The goal for you should never be to get on my level, right? It should be, we expect much more from you, right? And so I think that's just to open up space and to encourage them now.
Yes, sir.
And encourage them. But I mean, even if you think about African cosmology, we'll suggest to you that the funny thing about African cosmology is in many traditions, everybody doesn't even become an ancestor.
That's right. That's exactly right.
You have to have lived a good life to have and died a good death.
That's right.
To have become an ancestor in the first place.
That's right.
Right. I mean, if this is Jacob Olupona, right? You can go into that African religions, a very short introduction in the Oxford series.
Right.
But he talks about in the section on the
right.
ancestors. That everybody doesn't get to become an ancestor.
Right.
And so, like, if you're not living that good life, and we can debate what the good life is,
Exactly.
right? But that's a criteria for becoming an ancestor in the first place, right? And so I'm trying to make that transition into the ancestral realm.
Well, I tell you what, I appreciate both of you brothers, and I think we did what we set out to do. I think we dealt with the things that men want to talk about. And like I said, it can't be just this time, it's got to be more times. And hopefully we'll get a few phone calls where other men want to join in, and we'll figure out how we can do that. But it's been everything that I expect it to be, and everything that I want Roots 101 to stand for. Because if we're going to be that healing space or that healing place, we need brothers like you to come in with your energy to make that happen.
Exactly.
All right. Well, thank you for joining Roots 101 Healing. I forgot what it is.
Healing process.
Healing process. You guys got me so twisted. Y'all got me singing another sermon when it got through. But thank you for coming to the healing process. See you next week. We'll come back on next Wednesday, and if we get enough requests, we may ask the same guys to come back. Thank you. Have a blessed night. Roots 101 African American Museum.
Peace.
Cool.
All right.
You done?
That was all that.
Decent?
Yeah, that was all right.
That was all right, my man.
Good with that. Appreciate
All
it.
right, Red.
Man, bless you, man.